Over the next hour, we're going to concentrate on the game of Gaelic football. So let's go through the fixtures this weekend. In the Tailteann Cup, round 1 today, Cavan Laois at Breffni Park from 4, Down Waterford in Newry from 6, also at 6, Limerick Longford at the Gaelic grounds, and then Meath Tipperary at 6:30 in Navan. Then we have the provincial finals, Leinster tomorrow. The senior decider between Dublin and Louth throws in at Croke Park at 1:45. And then Armagh Derry in the Ulster final in Clones from 4 o'clock. So looking ahead over the next while, as we also go through the Tailteann Cup fixtures tomorrow, we got Fermanagh Wexford, 1 o'clock at Brewster Park, Antrim Leitrim, 1 o'clock Corrigan Park in Belfast, Offaly London, 2 o'clock in Tullamore, and Wicklow versus Carlow at 4 o'clock in Ockram. So we will look ahead with the former All-Ireland winning defender with Donegal, Eamon McGee, ex-Louth player Paddy Keenan, and the ex-Dublin boss Pillar Caffrey. Eamon McGee, we'll start with you. We're streaming the conversation as well, folks. You can listen on News Talk across the country. Also watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels if you wish, on Twitter, YouTube and on Facebook. So Eamon, I suppose there's a lot of discussion around the provincial championships being defunct and maybe for the dustbin, but when you're looking at Derry Armagh tomorrow, a sellout crowd, Derry looking for back-to-back titles, first time since the 70s. Armagh, not alone have they not won one in 15 years, they haven't been in the final in 15 years, so it'll be a big day in Clones.
Massive day in Clones, and it's again, Ulster is flying the flag in terms of it's probably kept the provincials alive for this last decade, because there's been talk about provincials on the way out for a long time, and I think in fairness the GAA have got the balance right in terms of there's a piece for everybody now in terms of your ability level. If you think you're above the Tailteann Cup, you go for your provincial, and if you think you're in All-Ireland, you can concentrate in the All-Ireland series. But the Ulster final, massive day, and there'll be a great buzz about Clones now. As fond memories and not so fond memories as well. So it's always a great occasion.
I've never been to Clones for the Ulster final. Eamon, you've won 3 of them. What is it like? Because when Donegal made the breakthrough in 2011, I believe it was 19 years.
Yeah, I think 92 was the last time we'd won it, and then we won it in 2011. So it was a big break, but there was Ulster finals before that, and there was a few Ulster finals in Croke Park. Donegal and Armagh were part of that. And
yeah,
we loved Croke Park, but it was always Clones was hard to beat. My first memory of the Ulster final was young fella going up. I think it was 2000, and I'm not sure what it was there, early noughties anyway, for an Ulster final, and as a player, and just coming up the hill in the bus, and just the crowds thronging the bus, and there was just a great buzz about it, and this is where I want to be.
Do you feel the crowd in on you on the pitch at St. Tunick's Park? Are they close by? Is it good proximity, as it were?
Yeah, it's not something that I would have paid too much heed to now. Yeah. But obviously, you have the Croke Park there. I wouldn't say there's a disconnect there now, but they seem to be closer. And in terms of where you do the warm up, you have to go through the crowd to do your warm up. That's the way it would have been in our time. Come back then, and you're mingling and you're seeing faces, and it's just a bit more personal, if you get me. And it's the stadium that could be doing a bit of improvement in terms of the stadium in Clones now, but the actual occasion is brilliant.
Was there a key standout memory from any of those Ulster final wins for you?
Obviously, the 2011 one was a big one, and the fact that we'd finally got over the line, and we started to realise that this McGuinness man might be onto something, and we might have to start paying a wee bit more attention to him. And it validated a lot of what he was saying, and was a reward. So that was a big one. But a lot of positive memories and a lot of not so good ones. I think in 2013, I got one of the wildest roastings in my career in Ulster final. I bought a pair of white boots, and for the Ulster final, I was in all-star form, and it was just a matter of getting the Ulster final, tick the box, and continue on my way to my all-star and to the All-Ireland series. And Kieran Hughes from Monaghan just kind of put paid to that all-star stream and give me the wildest runabouts. So it's the Ulster final and the Clonus and the atmosphere, it smells weakness. So it's not for the faint-hearted now.
So white boots, are you like the Liverpool 1996 FA Cup? Is it kind of that kind of vibe about it?
As soon as that game was over, I think on the Monday or the Tuesday, I got rid of the white boots. So it was just a moment of hubris or whatever that word is now. I just thought, we'll not do the white boots again.
So when you were getting your roasting from Kieran, was he saying it in your ear? Look at you in your white boots. No,
I didn't say. There was plenty being said between the two of us, and I got quieter as the game went on. But the white boots weren't referenced too much. I think his brother Darren took a wee look at me and says, "What are you doing with them? You're not a white boot, man."
Paddy and Pillar, how we doing? Paddy, can you hear us there? Paddy Keenan.
Have you there? All right, lads.
Yeah, how we doing? And Pillar Caffrey, can you hear us there?
Yeah, I can hear you, John. Yeah,
we got you. Paddy, what's it been like in Louth this week? You were captain in 2010. It was a very painful day for Louth. It was in your grasp, and then it was a goal that should never have stood, and it got me the title. But I suppose 13 years on, Mickey Hart in charge. What's the buzz been like this week up there?
Great buzz about the place. It's not too often you see the red and white flags all around the towns and clubs and all the rest. We're not necessarily used to being in this sort of position. So great buzz, I have to say. Now the county board had an event there on Wednesday evening in Blackstone Motors, one of the sponsors, and I attended it. And just a great turnout, great buzz. You're seeing people really getting behind the team this year, and it's just building and building. So there's a lot of you're going up with a lot of hope. There's probably a little bit of fear there, the team that you're playing, but I think there's a sneaky suspicion with a lot of fans that you can possibly pull something off here if things go right on the day. But just great to be at this level and playing at this playing one of the greatest teams and some of the greatest players in the last 10-20 years of all time. Some of those players, and just great little buzz about the place.
Louth could do with a win, couldn't they, in a final like this to maybe banish 2010?
Absolutely, yeah. It might stop people talking about 2010 to a point, to be honest with you. So it'd be great. It'd give a great boost. 2010 we got a bit of a run, and getting to Leinster final and everything else, and just the way that game went, things kind of collapsed for Louth for years after that. We'd a few lads obviously left the panel, went abroad. A lot of fans kind of left the county scene and stopped following the county team for the next 10 years. They were that sickened with it, and we really lost our way for a good 10 years after that. And it's only now it's really kind of coming back, and you're getting a lot of fans back. You're getting good crowds. To be a huge crowd there tomorrow. So it'd be great to banish those memories and hopefully focus on the 2023 team as opposed to 2010 team.
I suppose we do need to ask you about it as well, though, Paddy, given you're here and you were captain on the day. It was the day of the World Cup final. I remember it was Spain and the Netherlands. It was that day in July of 2010. And I remember the next day, the World Cup final wasn't even the top story on the bulletins. It was Louth and Meath. You were ahead by a point going into the last minute of injury time, and then Meath threw the ball over the line and it was awarded. And obviously the scenes afterwards were disgraceful as well. We can't condone what happened to Martin Sludden, but from a sporting point of view, it was a travesty. Where was your head after that on the day, in the weeks, in the years after that? It must have been a very tough time for you even.
To be honest with you, once the season was over, I kind of parked it, to be honest with you. And you unfortunately you'll never be let forget about it. And you go down the country, you go abroad, anywhere nearly you go, people want to ask you about it or talk about it or whatever. So unfortunately you never get a chance to ultimately forget about it. But look, I personally, I don't dwell on it. I think most of the lads that I'd still be in touch with, they're the same as well. Look, life moves on, and you can't just sit dwelling on that for the rest of your days. But I suppose the few weeks after, it was probably quite difficult. There was cameras all around the place. I remember going to a county board meeting, to see what we were going to do, whether we were going to appeal and all that sort of thing. And it was a massive distraction. I remember going to a meeting in the Fairways Hotel, maybe the Tuesday after the game, and RTE cameras and everything else outside the hotel, waiting for people to come in and out and get a bit of a snippet of a story. And it just, as time went on, it didn't seem like the GAA or Leinster Council or whatever were really going to make a stand on it. And I suppose us as players, we were drawn against Dublin then in the next round. And I suppose a decision was then made. Just listen, we have to focus on the next game. We can't just dwell on it. And it was a massive distraction coming up to that Dublin game. We didn't necessarily play well, and I think we were beaten by 7 or 8 points or whatever it was in the end. But it was a huge distraction for the weeks after that. And yeah, it definitely took the eye off the ball, but maybe in hindsight we should have been a bit stronger, being honest. I don't know what stronger would be, whether it was not feeling the team or really protesting the decision or whatever it was. But definitely in hindsight, I think maybe as a team, as a captain, as county board, as whatever, that we didn't really push back hard enough against the GAA, in my own opinion, looking back now.
And you've got a day job to do and everything, I'm sure, Paddy. Your head must be melted.
Yeah, and I only thought of it during the week, or remembered it during the week. You know, there was letters coming to the house, there was phone calls coming to the house, and I vaguely remember now at this stage, and I'd forgotten about it for years. There was one guy over in Cavan or Monaghan or something like that, constantly sending letters in, ringing the house. I was living at home with my parents at the time, and you know, he'd be ringing the house talking to my father, he wanted to get talking to myself, and just wouldn't let it go, and trying to push us to go legal and all this sort of crack on it. So it was just bizarre, some of the stuff that was kind of happening. And as you said, there was day jobs to go back to, there was games to be played, there was club championships and all the rest, to continue on for the rest of the season. But all anybody wanted to focus on and talk on was the Leinster final. And as players, we just want to move on and get on with it.
This is the mad thing about the GAA, because everybody feels they're invested in it and own part of it. Pillar Caffrey, have you ever had anybody ring in the house looking for you?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. and lots of letters through the years as well advised me what I wasn't doing right and needed to improve on. So yeah, you always get the fanatic that's is willing to put pen to paper. And it's funny just listening to Paddy recall and the scene afterwards. I was on duty as a guard inside the stadium that day, and even the implications of like the result and the effect of what happened that day after the match, and they created a new position in terms of match day positions for the Gardaí on duty, and for the following year, whenever I was on duty, I got the job of minding the referee, so you had to be down pitch side. So as soon as the final whistle went, trying to stay out of the camera light, but you were certainly, your role was to make sure the referee got off the pitch safely. So it even had ramifications in relation to how matches were policed from then on. But look, I think for people who were in the stadium that day, it was just complete shock because everybody felt, look, hang on, this is going to be reversed, something is going to happen. And then, you know, as it went on and the incident after the game, it even brought more shock to the occasion. And then as a GAA person, you know, and replays have been given and granted and all that, you felt just in the days afterwards that, yeah, look, no, there's no way this is going to stand. You know, it was outrageous that it wouldn't be rectified in some shape or form and allowed to get a replay out of it or whatever. But as Paddy said, you know, the days turned into a week and then a fortnight, and then you realise actually, you know, nothing is going to happen here, and it just suck it up and get on with it. And but it was certainly one of the most bizarre games I ever attended in terms of an outcome, because it wasn't even if people missed it, like, you know, and then with phones and all that, like people that were in the stadium that weren't really, because I don't think they showed replays within the stadium, if memory serves me right. I think they cut the replays within the stadium, but people on their phones were getting messages now, hey, look, this was a try, this wasn't a goal. So it was there was quite bizarre aftermath on the day, and then in the days and weeks afterwards.
So were you then minding the man in the middle for the Dublin Kerry game the next year, Pillar, were you?
And I was gone as manager. That was 2010, wasn't it?
Yeah, but because you were guard, as you said, you were guard. So 2011, were you minding the man in the middle for the Dublin Kerry final?
So yeah, funny. 2011, the All-Ireland. Joe McQuillan was the referee, I think, in the final, and you know, Stephen Cluxon got the famous kick or whatever. And I was down on one knee, bended knee on the side of the pitch, just right behind Clucko when he took that kick. And as the fellow said, I'd be fist in the air a lot quicker than a lot of people because I could see the trajectory of the ball, and it was my job then to get in and mind the referee. But there was nobody gunning for him that day. So, but it created a new, I suppose, awareness in terms of, that referees could be assaulted if people got onto the pitch, and there was enough anger in the crowd or whatever. And also, that replays within the stadium, I think around that time they made a decision, look, it's something very contentious. We're not going to show it over and over within the stadium to ignite the crowd. So there is a censorship that goes on within the stadium as well. So a lot of little side issues that arose out of it, despite the fact that every GAA person in the country, maybe bar Meath people, felt that, look, Louth were wrong that day and seriously wronged. Yeah.
When you get these letters, Pillar, are they anonymous? Was there any hate mail? Because this is
some of them were just directed to the county boards, and John Costello would maybe hand me the following Tuesday or Thursday after the defeat a few letters, and he'd say, "Don't read them before you go to bed." He says, "Look, they're addressed to the manager," and they would have been anonymous, quite vile. Some of them too, you know what I mean. But that's just the nature of the beast. There was a guy he was actually an ex-guard who wrote to me regularly. He's now deceased, but I used to look forward to getting his letters because he would sign them and he would have brilliant stuff in them, and he was obviously an astute student of the game, and he would go into great detail, watch the match over again and point out errors that we had in our plays, and it was actually, I'd look forward to getting his correspondence, and he was a guard in the Bridewell, John Kelly was his name, and I used to actually look forward to getting his correspondence because it might be a 6-page document that he'd have put together, and he'd have highlighted stuff and drawn diagrams on pages and underlined certain minutes in the game to rewatch. He was like having a stats man in the backroom team. He was that detailed and that vested in the whole improvement that he could see was needed for Dublin to get where they needed to get to. But look, I'm sure up and down the country, it just goes with the role. That there is some fanatics out there, and some people feel that they have the right, which they have. They don't write to you personally at your family home or whatever. They can certainly just address a letter into the county board, and it'll get to you eventually.
And Eamon McGee, I'm big on Twitter, as are you. Twitter's now where all this happens, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure if Pillar would get many of the DMs there if he was on Twitter. But this is. But no, in fairness, there has been a few. It has been a few letters. I haven't got it in a while now, but there has been a few. And again, anonymous. You wouldn't mind if someone had put their name to a letter, but the anonymous stuff, they just don't really pay much heed to.
Yeah, there's a cowardice to that, isn't there, Eamon? So, Mickey Hart, Paddy, what's been the secret of getting Louth, like, first of all, up to Division 2 and now into this Leinster final?
I don't think there's no magic sauce, I don't think, with the two lads, but Mickey and obviously Gavin Devlin as well. They're just exceptional men. We were talking at the gig we were at on Wednesday evening, talking to a couple of ex-Louth players, Derek Crilly and lads that would have been around the team in my days. And, even from after I left or before I played with Louth, you always had murmurs or player giving out, or, things went well in the camp and maybe players coming and going and leaving panels and all the rest. Like, since Mickey and Gavin have come in, I genuinely haven't heard one bad thing, coming out of the camp or from anyone involved in the county board or anyone that would know the goings-on inside the camp. There's just been such positivity around the place, and I know from speaking to some of the players that the coaching that they're getting from Gavin is absolutely second to none. They hold him in the highest regard, and look, then obviously you have Mickey Hart there. Nothing more needs to be said about him, and they're bringing something. They're bringing a work rate and the conditioning and all that sort of thing, but I think a lot of it is around the belief and grinding it out. They've played a league this year where they probably lost two of their most well-known players in Samuel Roy and Kieran Byrne. There's a few lads that have went travelling over the last kind of couple of years, so it's not exactly like he's been even playing with the full hand, and there's players that have just developed something unbelievable over the last 2-3 years. So it's just, obviously whatever they're doing on the field and the coaching and the communication and the psychological side of things, it just must be phenomenal, because 3-4 years ago, we have to, inside the county, while things are going well and there's a buzz, you have to remember where we were 3, 4, 5 years ago. We, not that we were a laughing stock, but you're at close to the bottom rung of the ladder. So where we're at today, regardless of what the result is on Sunday, where we're at today is a huge bit of progress from where we were,
Absolutely. And Pillar, yourself from the noughties when Dublin faced Tyrone, and Mickey Harkin break some hearts, broke your heart a couple of times.
Yeah, look, you have to take your hat off to Mickey and Gav Devlin. They're exceptional GA people, and like Mickey did 18 seasons with the Tyrone seniors, and he'd done the minors and 21s before that, and it's just. It was a big shock now, I have to say, and a great kudos to Louth for going and approaching Mickey and see would he be interested. I think he still had a grow that he wanted to hang on for a season or two with Tyrone. He still felt there was unfinished business there. But look, when they decided to cut links with him, he just felt, look, I'm ready and open for another challenge. And little did anybody think at that stage, because like Paddy's right, Louth were in Division 4, and they were looked on as an easy touch in Leinster, whoever got them in the first round, and that was just it. And that was the cycle and the history of Louth football at that period. And what he's done in the 3 seasons is just absolutely phenomenal, and so much so that, look, when you looked at the draw this year, it wasn't a huge shock that Louth have come through. You would have feeling that their league campaign was very, very positive. Like, to get it to the last day of the season, to play Dublin in more or less a playoff game, the winner was getting promoted and put in a very credible performance. It just shows how far they've actually come. The demons of coming into Croke Park and taking a hiding. It's probably gone from this group, and the way Mickey has them set up, they're hard team to play against, and plus, they have that edge about them up front that they're going to go at you. And like the National League game, they created 3 or 4 great goal chances against Dublin that day, and even looking at the Dublin team that's announced, that full back line, you'd be a little bit worried about them in relation to when they ran at hard, so while the bookies odds seem crazy tomorrow, like Louth aren't without hope coming in here tomorrow. They're not sort of one season wonders. They've backed up a lot of good performances. They've matured a lot as a group, and they believe in this, in what they're doing and the style of football they're playing. They're very comfortable with it, and I think they'll give Dublin the right crack at this tomorrow.
It's Kildare 5 points, Sligo 2 in the under-20 football final in Breffni Park, the Airgood sponsored final. But great to see Kildare and Sligo in that final. 1-1 between Leeds and Newcastle in the Premier League. Eamon McGee, how do you, from somebody on the outside, assess Dublin and Louth tomorrow?
Sorry to say that for Paddy anyway, that I just see a Dublin being comfortable. I'd say minimum six points. But in terms of what Mickey Hart and what Horst Evelyn have done with Louth, it's a lot of good work. And should they spring a surprise, it'll surpass anything Mickey's done, and with even winning the All-Irelands with Tyrone. As I says, a lot of what I'm hearing from what they're doing has been very good work. Coaching wise from Horst Evelyn, just from a presence perspective with Mickey Hart, and obviously he has good players to work with too, and I think when we look at Dublin and the way Leinster's gone, this is from an outside perspective now. I thought there was just that as soon as the sight of the Dublin jerseys that they were just laying down, and it's just a matter of Dublin turning up and accepting their fate. And I thought there was a lot of that in the last decade, and even so that, and I thought we'd see Kildare and maybe Meath push back, but it didn't come through. So hopefully Louth now, in terms of throw away that victim mentality and start to, because Dublin are not that they're on the wane, but they're not the force that they were. So there's an opportunity now for some team in Leinster to step up and no better men than Mickey Hart and Devlin to push Louth on.
Pillar, what's the story with Dublin then? They crushed Laois and then they were sluggish the last day against Kildare. Why the inconsistency?
Yeah, look, I think that could be bad news for Louth going into tomorrow, because had they got another big victory over Kildare, there might have been a little bit of complacency amongst the group in terms of the things were going well, that, you know, they'd beaten Derry in a Division 2 league final, and then you would have saying, right, 2 back-to-back big victories. But there was worrying aspects to the Kildare performance, and yet, you know, the last 15 minutes they were much the better team. So they've seen it through, but I would think that, look, they've got a warning shot across the bow now, and I think you know, training levels would have gone up a notch. They would know how good Louth are capable of being. Having played Louth in Croke Park in the National League already, they will know the threat that Louth bring, and they know that Louth aren't coming, as Eamon says, just to lie down and make up the numbers. You know, Louth are going to give this a serious crack. And plus, look, the X factor of having Mickey, who you know has undermined Dublin expectations in previous years, albeit with a very good Tyrone team. But you know, so there might be a little bit of vulnerability there. I just don't think Desi has got his full. I think he's still trying to extend the panel in that, you know, like there's still 7 games to play if you're going to win the All-Ireland, which is a hell of a lot. So I think Desi is still trying to, you know, not blood players, but certainly give them game time in Croke Park and expose them a little bit. You know, like even in relation to, if you were saying Dublin's best 15 to take on somebody tomorrow, Owen Murchan is obviously carrying an injury, so he's not the 26. Mick Fitzsimons, who you would expect to be in the starting team as well, has been doing exams, so he hasn't broken back into the 26 yet as well. So there's 2 guys out of the fence that will certainly be a miss tomorrow. And look, there's other young guys that are getting more game time and getting more exposure. But look, that might be just a little chink that you know Louth can go at tomorrow. Jack Mack is named as a sub. I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting tomorrow, a change or 2 before the ball is thrown in. But I wouldn't think that Dublin just have found, and I don't think Desi, you know, it's not about a starting 15 anymore. It's about probably getting his best 20 players. And you know, Brian Howard hasn't featured much. Niall Scully seems to have fallen down the pecking order. So there is subtle changes going on. You know, Pascal is getting a starting role now this season. So I think there's still a bit of tinkering going on with the team in terms of teasing it out and seeing what combinations can work well and what can give them. Because when they've lost their last 2 semi-finals, I think maybe what came off the bench weakened the team as opposed to Jim Gavin's era, where the team was being strengthened every time they made a late substitution or brought in the so-called subs, where I think that would be one aspect that Desi would be really trying to improve on, that he needs more impact from the bench, you know, in the games. And I think that's still where Dublin is at, trying to tease out that who actually are the best 20 players to have in the panel.
We're speaking here to the former Dublin manager Pillar Caffrey, the ex-All-Ireland winner with Donegal, Eamon McGee, and the former Louth captain Paddy Keenan, about the provincial finals and the Tailteann Cup and GAAGO. We'll talk about that after 2. It's kind of been a hot topic this week, so we're back after the news with that. So just to give you a rundown on what's going on elsewhere, we have the Airgrid Under-20 football final at the moment is going on between Kildare and Sligo up at Breffni Park, a kind of a prelude to the Tailteann Cup game between Cavan and Laois. But this is a national final. It's a massive game in Kildare. 8 points, Sligo 3 at the moment, 23 minutes into the opening half. In terms of the football, Leeds need to win against Newcastle. It's 1-1 in that game at Elland Road. So Leeds open the scoring through Luke Aylan, and then Newcastle equalising through a Callum Wilson penalty. 3 o'clock matches: Aston Villa against Spurs, Chelsea Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace against Bournemouth. We also have Manchester United, the key game against Wolves at 3 o'clock, and Southampton against Fulham also at 3. In the Championship playoffs, Sunderland play Luton at 5:30. In terms of what's going on in the show today, Ronnie O'Sullivan interview at 2:30. We got the Women's FAI celebration of 50 years since the first international. That's coming up in interviews at about 2:45. Then Football Saturday, Mark Lawrenson Keenan joining Jan McDonald and Johnny Ward between 3 and 5. They're checking a possible penalty handball at Ellen Road, and wait and see. So that is against Leeds. Are Newcastle going to get their second penalty of the game? We'll come back to you with an update on that, and also the second part of the Saturday panel on the Gaelic football situation and the provinces tomorrow with Pillar Caffrey, Eamon McGee and Paddy Keenan. Do you have a view, folks, on this GAAGO controversy? Is it overblown? Do you get the outrage and the anger there is about certain games being behind a paywall, or do we just need to realise that this is the time we can't show every game and we have to go forward, and the GAA needs to make revenue to put back into the association? Love to hear your thoughts on that. 53106. We are back after the news.
Follow at Newstalk FM on TikTok for the latest news, reports and trends from our presenters and reporters.
Harvey Norman are your home appliance specialists. Get the LG 10.5kg king-size capacity washing machine, now $999. Pair with the LG 9kg heat pump tumble dryer, now $1,299. Or get the LG fridge freezer with craft ice, now $2,999. Claim up to €500 cashback on each product. Or buy all 3 products and get €675 cashback, plus a bonus €150 Harvey Norman gift card. Shop in store or online today at Harvey Norman, your home appliance specialists.
Go! Maybe your passion's not red, but white. Maybe you have green blood, or cry gold tears. Maybe your pride is maroon, or your belief is blue. Because the colours you wear are the colours you feel. The GAA Football All-Ireland Senior Championship, sponsored by Allianz, AIB and SuperValue. These are our counties. These are our colours. Advanced ticket sales only. Get yours at GAA.ie or selected Centra and SuperValue stores. GAA, where we all belong.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €8 million. Play responsibly in store, in app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
At Centra, feel good and shop smart with great offers this week. Like Centra selected meats, mix and match, any 3 for €10. Centra selected fruit and veg, mix and match, any 3 for €2.50. And wines we love, Unjure and Rosé, only €10. Centra, live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Love a space to call your own. Live in the better built surroundings of a Glenveigh home.
Love having a sense of place. And live for shaping it from the get-go.
Love green spaces and the joy of outdoors. Live where lower environmental impact is a way of life.
In a home built more sustainably for comfort, quality and for people putting down roots just like you.
Love where you live. Community inspired and shaped by you and Glenveigh.
Home of the new.
Everyone kept telling us that summer is a lovely time to have a baby. But my little one was born 6 weeks early. She gets neonatal blood transfusions. They really help. She's a fighter. Someday soon we'll get to bring her home. That'll be really lovely.
We never get to choose when to need blood, but we can choose when to give. Visit giveblood.ie. We count on you.
In the Irish Times weekend, Conor Pope investigates if the cost of living crisis is getting worse, with grocery prices, energy bills and interest rates only going one way. In Magazine, Brianna Perkins cheekily explains how you can always spot Irishmen on a sun holiday. Ticket has you covered for all that's going on with its complete guide to the summer festivals. And in sport, more on the unknown Irish coach Christy Holly, who found himself at the centre of an abuse scandal in US women's soccer. Buy in store or get it delivered to your door. The Irish Times, because you get it.
Join the conversation at Newstalk FM on Facebook for the latest headlines, videos and thought-provoking podcasts. On 106 to 108 FM on the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud and Smart Speaker. This is Newstalk.
It's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, I'm Ellen Butler. The lived experience of people who have had to deal with the impact of illicit drugs in their personal lives is the main focus of the Citizens' Assembly on drug use today. The stigma and shame attached to drug usage and addiction was highlighted by speakers who addressed the gathering at Dublin Castle. The current Citizens' Assembly is expected to run until October, when it will then vote on its recommendations. Shannon Connors, who was born into addiction, says it has had devastating impacts on her life.
There's a point where, you know, something happens and obviously you have to face the consequences of your addiction. A lot of that is would be criminality, and then you get criminalised for it, so that it continues then throughout your life.
The government's hate speech bill is being described as troubling by Free Speech Ireland. The controversial law is expected to come into effect this summer. It could see people jailed for intentional incitement to hatred against a person with a protected characteristic such as religion or sexual orientation. However, Free Speech Ireland claims the bill is flawed, with no clear definition around gender or hate itself. Spokesperson Sarah Hardymans doesn't think it's appropriate for the state to intervene.
As a culture, we can decide what is acceptable talk. We can condemn people for views. We police ourselves as a society by giving each other that feedback. But you have to fundamentally have free speech in order to do so and tell someone that's terrible belief, that's a terrible piece of conduct,
Penalties are being imposed on the NCT provider Applus in a bid to cut the backlog. Some motorists have been issued January next year as the earliest available date for their NCT, despite promises that things would improve by the end of this month. Minister of State for Transport Jack Chambers says anyone given a long wait time should contact the NCT directly to be put on a priority waiting list.
We've instructed the Road Safety Authority to impose penalties for these unacceptable delays. What I would say is that the number of tests has gone from 25,000 tests per week in December to over 40,000 tests per week in the last number of weeks.
Man Viney for now, a small planet discovered by NASA, may have once been a water world. Recent reports show the mini Neptune is blanketed in a steam-like haze. Researchers say the planet, discovered by a specialised NASA telescope, is unlike anything in our solar system. That's your news at 2:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Bin the Father's Day socks. Give Dad a Ryanair gift card from his number one baby.
Mainly dry today with sunny spells. 1 or 2 isolated showers this afternoon as cloud builds in the west. Top temperatures reaching 16 to 21 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
And you're very welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. We're talking Gaelic football at the moment between now and about 2:30 with Eamon McGee, the former All-Ireland winner with Donegal, ex-Louth player Paddy Keenan and the former Dublin boss Pillar Caffrey. You want to get your views on the GAAGO controversy, listeners out there, 53106 at a cost of 30 cents. You can also tweet us at Off the Ball. Remember folks, Waterford Clare meeting in the Munster Hurling Championship round robin in Thurles at 6 o'clock this evening. We're kind of wrapping up the Dublin Louth chat ahead of the Leinster final tomorrow. Paddy Keenan, what gives you hope tomorrow? What gives you hope you can do this and upset the Dubs?
Well, I suppose it's probably the nature Louth have been winning games this year, which is thankfully very unloud. Even in the league, they've come back from the dead. They've snatched, victory from the jaws of defeat, which is not necessarily a trait that we would have had over the last 10 or 15 or 50 years. The Cork Meath Kildare games, they really had to grind it out in the last few minutes. Westmeath 8 points down at half time, came back and won by a point. Offaly came back a couple of times in the semi-final, so they've had a few scares. They've been up against it, and then obviously if you look at the league game against Dublin, they got beaten by 7 points in the end, but they will be I'm sure Mickey and Gavin and the players would be very unhappy with that performance. The first half was actually quite good. The defensive setup was as good as nearly you would see. Dublin really struggled to break it down. Now they missed a couple of chances, hit the post, one cleared off the line. Dublin kind of got a bit of a run on us in the third quarter, and that's probably that period where Louth will hopefully learn from. Defensively, it'll be interesting to see how they set up, because they were very, very defensive against Dublin that day in Croke Park. They were a little bit looser probably against Offaly and Westmeath, so it'll be interesting to see how aggressive they'll be or how defensive they will be against Dublin on Sunday. But I think the character that they've shown will give you a good bit of hope. The fact that they've played Dublin and played them in Croke Park and were thereabouts, particularly for the first half of the game, will give them something to work off. I'm looking forward to the midfield battle. Obviously McCarthy and Fenton, not just two of the best players in the country, but two of the best players of all time, to be fair. So it's a huge task for the two Louth lads, Conor Early and Tommy Dornan, but both of those lads have progressed something serious over the last 2, 3, 5 years. Particularly Conor Early kind of coming fairly fresh into the panel. Tommy's been around a while, but the two of them are really developing into quality county midfielders. They're big men. They can score. Nearly every game they're getting on the score sheet. They can move. I think that'll be a big area that I'd be watching, and hopefully we can break even or come out on top there. look, at the end of the day, we're playing an excellent team. If you look at the individual players that Dublin have, they're top quality players, and if they click on the day, you could be under a bit of pressure or a bit of bother. But I don't think this Louth team will fare them. I don't think Mickey and Gavin will allow Louth to be afraid of Dublin. I think they're genuinely going to go up and give this a crack and fancy their chances at taking a cut at Dublin. Whether that's enough, I don't know, but look, when you're there, you have a chance. That's the starting point. Yeah. At least you're there, and look, they'll genuinely give it a good crack.
Pillar, Dublin have an incentive here to win this for the 13th year in a row, because if they win, they have Sligo, Roscommon and Kildare in the round robin. If they lose, it's Kerry, Mayo and Cork.
Yeah, look, looking at the groups and the way they've panned out, there's certainly no benefit in losing tomorrow, and Dublin will be well aware of that. Albeit that, look, should Dublin win, and then you're looking at their 3 games in the group, and you're saying, right, it's still games that, look, are all very winnable. Roscommon, Kildare and Sligo. And that's the avenue that Dublin want to go, that they'll be able to come in then to a quarter-final fresh with 3 more games under their belt, having discovered a bit more about the depth of the panel. But look, there's a job of work to be done tomorrow. I think having got the fright against Kildare set up similar to the way Louth set up in terms of they put up a big blank first half, and Dublin genuinely did struggle. I think they were probably caught a little bit unawares, not having seen Kildare set up quite like that before. Glenn Ryan had sort of kept that under wraps, and they frustrated Dublin for a long period in that game. And I think now that, look, Dublin have been road tested, they know that Louth will set up like that tomorrow. And I think you'll see a better performance from Dublin. And I would expect them to, while it mightn't be pretty in the eye for a long time, and I expect Louth to give this an almighty lash, I still can't but see Dublin finding a way and coming through it.
Eamon McGee, so Derry Armagh, they're both like the sweeper keepers, Owen Lynch and Ethan Rafferty. Was that something you enjoyed as a defender, having to have that in your kind of wheelhouse around you?
I would have loved this sweeper keeper. You probably were going ahead of the pecking order in terms of giving them the ball. I was one of the boys where you were told, don't give the ball to her, once I get it, lay it off. But the sweeper keeper came in after around the time that I was finishing. It was actually Kieran McGeaney that trialled the sweeper keeper first with, I'm nearly sure, Blaine Hughes. Aidan O'Rourke and Kieran McGeaney tried it out on their mat, didn't work as well. And it's a fantastic option. It doesn't mean that every keeper in the GAA in Ireland can try it now. It's just that you need a certain skill set. You need to be good in the ball, and you need to be dynamic. And I think what a lot of teams, definitely last year, in terms of the club and inter-county, they would have just done the sweeper keepers. The same thing in GAA. Whatever's in vogue, we'll try it out. We'll not look at what does it suit us. And we've seen a lot of sweeper keepers, and there are a lot of embarrassing moments for them. And keepers now, they know now who's a sweeper keeper and who's just a keeper. But in fairness to keepers, they're the one position in GAA that are constantly innovating and pushing themselves and evolving. And the rest, even as coaches, as players out the field, it's an area that we should be doing the same. We should be looking at ourselves and pushing on now. But Lynch, he is coming into it in terms of that sweeper keeper, but Rafferty is just way out ahead of him in terms of what Lynch isn't pivotal to Derry. But Rafferty is a big cog in that machine in terms of the way he can break lines and he can sit out and he can pick a pass now.
Kildare 9 points, Sligo 4 at half time in the Airgrid All-Ireland Under-20 Football Championship final at Breffni Park. Leeds Newcastle's hotting up. Newcastle went ahead 2-1, a second penalty from Callum Wilson, but Leeds have just equalised to Rasmus Christensen. So 81 minutes on the watch. Leeds 2, Newcastle 2. Eamon McGee, how do you weigh up then Derry Armagh? So Derry have been better in terms of scoring. 219 they got an average of against Fermanagh Monaghan. Armagh were maybe defensive in the league but have got that attacking verve back perhaps. How do you kind of see this tomorrow unfolding?
It's a tough one, you know. I would do probably, I wouldn't be a better man, but I'd always do a GA bet, and with one of the Gaelic lads, and he gave me any other team but Derry, because I just did. There was a lot of talk about Derry, and I just didn't see them progressing the way everybody was talking about it. So, you know, am I confident in terms of will Armagh beat Derry? No, because Armagh haven't pushed on the way I would expect them. They got relegated from the Division 1. Was it kind of, in terms of their development, it definitely wouldn't have helped them. And at times against Down, I know they comprehensively beat Down, but at times against Down, in that first 15 minutes, you're just looking at them, they were very ordinary. They looked fairly clueless in terms of what they were trying to get that long ball in, and they looked clueless in terms of how they went about it. So probably Derry are favourite. You know, Derry don't have their manager. He's pivotal to what Derry have been about. He's kind of like that Jose Mourinho thing. So the fact that he's not there is definitely going to affect them. And it's a really interesting game. It's a really, really interesting game. And as I said at the start of the show, it's just something to really look forward to.
You know the geezer, Pillar Caffrey. He was at your club, Nafina, back in the day.
Yeah, geezer, 10 years with Nafina. You know, a huge part of our success story. A great guy, know him very well, and would have massive time for him. And look, he's under a bit of pressure. You know, this is a 9th season with Armagh. You know, the first time to get them to he's at a terrible record in the Ulster Championship. So I think he himself will know that, look, this is a massive opportunity for Armagh in terms of actually getting an Ulster title. Hard to believe that it is 15 years since they've won one. You know, Clones is a great venue, and Armagh supporters are probably the most colourful of the Northern in terms of when they bring their crowd. And I think it'll be a massive occasion there tomorrow, and very, very hard game to call. You know, Derry probably have more big game pedigree more recently, albeit that Armagh, like last year, were more impressive. This year they've been up and down in the league. Look, the need, I think, is more on Armagh's side, and I would have a sneaky suspicion that Geezer will get a performance out of these guys tomorrow. He seems to have all his big guns primed. Rian O'Neill's back, Jarlath Burns is back in the start, and Jarlath in the starting lineup. So he seems to have his best team available to him at the right time, and you know, I just think there could be a big performance in these guys. But look, Casement Park is the other issue that's coming down the track in 2025 in terms of going to be a live venue and an issue, and there'll be huge pressure for Ulster finals to go over to there. And you know, as Eamon says, Clone is a great venue. There's a feel about it that's quite different to you know, with Croke Park, for example. It's much more personal. And I think, look, it'll be one of the great occasions, because the provincial finals, in fairness, this year, like I think 11,000 people at that Munster final or 12,000 people at the Connacht final. Very, very poor crowds for provincial finals. You know, what's going to be in Croke Park tomorrow, I think an early kick-off. You know, I think there's a little bit of apathy in terms of the Dublin fan base. The Premiership is still on with this condensed season. I'm not sure how vested the Dublin crowd are at the moment in it. Knowing that, look, there's 3 group games coming, and then an All-Ireland, most likely an All-Ireland quarter-final. There's, you know, so all eyes will be on Clones, because that is the saviour of the provincials this year, bar that Louth come with a big performance and shot Dublin. But, you know, all eyes will be on Clones tomorrow, and the occasion that it will be, and 30-odd thousand up there, and colour and spectacle, and hopefully a really good game to go with.
How do you see it then, Paddy? Armagh, your neighbours up against Derry tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I'd agree with Pillar there that it's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere, I think, up there. Tickets seem like gold dust. Obviously, we're right in the border here, and you'll have a lot of Armagh and Louth flags coming out of many houses. But Yeah, the tickets seem to be like gold dust, and I think the atmosphere, the build-up, Armagh fans have been obviously fantastic over the last couple of years, and have always been, going back obviously to the early 2000s. So it'd be a great occasion. I don't know. I have a sneaky suspicion that Armagh will do it. I think the support that they have will just give them that bit of a lift. Obviously, there's going-ons in Derry there for the players themselves. That's a tough position for them to be in. There's a big distraction there, and how will they be able to cope with that coming into it? But they're probably further down the line than Armagh in that they're probably more settled. They've had a big year last year and plenty of experience, and they would have got a lot of learning from that. On paper, you're probably saying Derry should win, but I don't know why I'm saying Armagh. I just think they're one of these sort of wild card teams, and they showed it last year in the championship that anything can happen on any given day with Armagh. If you look even at that Galway game last year, it could be a bizarre game. It could be, a lot more open than maybe people think. And I think I think maybe the Armagh support can maybe just get them across the line.
Okay, 53106, we're getting text in on GAAGO, which has been the hot potato this week. Hi John, no issue with GAAGO as a concept and revenue generator. GA's got bills to pay, but the fact is the service reliant on broadband and the poor speeds in large parts of the country means even if you go and buy GAAGO, it can be a frustrating experience. That's my issue, says Tom in Dublin. Lads, no issue with matches going behind a paywall, as that's the way these things are going. But opting for a streaming service when large parts of the country have inadequate broadband and games just buffer is not the answer. DAZN launched a channel on Sky where you link your account on the app by inputting your viewing card number, which gives you access to the channel, which factors in people with poor Wi-Fi. No reason why the GAAGO couldn't do the same, says Mick in Cork. I think it's overblown, says Will from Dunleary. It's a pity it's not promoted as much as Sky Sports did. Pillar Caffrey, you're in Spain all the time getting your tan sorted. Do you have GAAGO? You must be used to GAAGO in Spain.
Yeah, look, I'm a subscriber, a great believer in it, in that, the Tailteann Cup, for example, today, like you'll be able to tune in and watch Cavan and Laois play later on this evening. You have your choices, more games. It was originally, the idea was for people abroad that they could tune in and get their games, whatever. Look, it's been a bit of this silly season, I think, in relation to the way it panned out with, two of the best games probably of the year in hurling, being on the GAAGO app, and the hurlers throwing the toys out of the pram and having the right go at the concept of it. But look, next weekend, football people will be up in arms because the two big games next weekend are on GAAGO. That's Kerry and Mayo and Galway and Tyrone. But it is the way forward. I think maybe the selection of the games was a bit of an issue this year. That, like, for two cracking hurling games to be on GAAGO was a bit unlucky for the GAA in ways, because one of them was meant to be on RTE on the Sunday, and because of events in Limerick, it was moved to the Saturday, and then it went on to GAAGO. But look, whether we like it or not, those of us that love sport, whatever sport it is, whether a lot of these sports channels are subscribed channels, and if you want to see the best stuff, you have to pay a little bit extra for it. I think the big problem the GAA had is, look, it's early days for it. It's a 5-year deal. They say they're going to review at the end of this season what games. But look, in another 3 weeks' time, every game is going to be free to air. Once we get through the group stages, all the hurling games in a couple of weeks' time will be free to air as well. So this whole outcry would have died down. But the big problem is the access, that people need to be able to access it. And for the older generation, they've been marginalised in a way in terms of the way the tickets have gone, that you have to be computer friendly now to be able to get tickets, or go to Super Value and get tickets, that this local thing of going into your club and getting them, or going into the county board office and getting them, that's all been done away with. And it's just a sign of the times that people feel a little marginalised. But look, I'm a believer in more games being, having choice and being able to pick and choose what games you want to watch yourself.
Pillar Caffrey's appeal for calm here on Off the Ball Saturday. Greg Caffrey on YouTube. GA need revenue? ? That's ridiculous. They should be supporting counties that can't afford expenses, or force them to pay equal expenses for equal effort. Cost the same regardless of gender, level, etc. Eamon McGee, you didn't get paid for being a GA player. What do you believe in? What do you believe in this?
And I wouldn't want us to go down that route at all. I'm happy enough and proud that we didn't get paid. With the GAAGO, it's something I didn't really get, because there's only so much controversies you can pick on, and just didn't really bother getting into it now. But in terms of the thing, when you started the show, you listed off the Tailteann Cup fixtures, and there's a stream of fixtures there. There's also the provincial champions. There's also hurling, and it's the issue here is the split season. RTE can only show so many, so it's the secondary thing is, do we go to, like, obviously there was a version, the TV station raised an issue during the week, and possibly there's something there, but I have no issue if there's going to be a few games and you have to pay a few pounds on GAAGO. It's the choice is there, and teams and supporters are going to lose out because of the condensed season. That was stated at the split season, which I'm a big advocate of. I think the split season had to come in, and that's because it's so condensed. We're going to miss out on some games, and be it the print media, be it the TV coverage, be it radio. It's so hard for you guys to try and get all these games in and cover these games, and we're going to miss out, and people are not going to be able to see every game they want. And by giving them that option with the GAAGO, and I don't see any wild issue with it.
Yeah, we're just going to finish up here. Just a bit of hassle at the Leeds game as supporters being escorted off the pitch 2-2 between Leeds and Newcastle here in the Premier League into stoppage time. I think there's a few things about the GAAGO. I think the condensed season is a huge part of it. 99 games in football this season, more games than ever before. You had 34 games in the hurling championship last year. You've got a championship which runs between April and July. RT can only show as many games. But then again, there's the whole question, and it's probably for another day, about what is GAA supposed to be in terms of, you need to try and make the biggest games available to the most wide audience as possible. And I think that preliminary competitions, maybe the whole concept of the leagues, when games don't matter as much as the championship, needs to be reviewed, and maybe the whole structure of the intercounty season needs to be reviewed. Paddy Keenan, maybe just a last word from you on GAAGO, what you've made of the whole week.
Yeah, I agree with what the two lads have really said there. There's more choice now, and you can't have one TV station basically taking up the full day on Saturday and all day on a Sunday, just showing every single game that's shown. It's not feasible or not possible. Fans are being given the opportunity to watch games, and there is more games available, and it's probably the people that it's affecting is probably the elderly community, where whether it's Wi-Fi or getting access to laptops, iPads, computers, smart TVs, or whatever it is, and some people I'm sure would have difficulty in maybe logging in or buying a subscription and that sort of thing. But at least the option is there. If you look back 20, 30 years ago, you might have one game on a Sunday and maybe the Sunday game, and that was it. There is a huge amount of TV being shown now, and I think that's just the way technology is going, and that's the way viewing is going. You've seen with COVID there has probably brought that on a lot as well. A lot of counties streaming club matches and things like that, which is brilliant because it gives more games to more people and more access. It's not perfect, but it's only the start. And look, people are used to Netflix, all that sort of subscription TV services. That's just the nature of how people are going to start watching TV in the future.
Yeah, I think there's a few things here. I think on the Virgin thing, or Jay said the Virgin were invited to bid for rights. I think that what people are angry about is that the championship still is the show. And if you're having most of the hurling games in Munster behind a paywall, where the jeopardy is in the championship at the moment, that's causing anger. And also there's a bit of friction between what the GAA is supposed to be as a voluntary amateur organisation, and that needs to generate revenue, but also then having this new concept of matches behind a paywall. So there's a little bit of a rub at the moment, a bit of friction between the three things. We're not going to solve it all today. Paddy Keenan and Pillar Caffrey, enjoy tomorrow. Best of luck with it.
Appreciate it, lads. Looking forward to it.
Cheers, yeah.
And Eamon, enjoy being the neutral tomorrow. No white boots now.
No, the white boots will never be seen again, thank God.
All right, lads. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
That's Eamon McGee, Paddy Keenan and Pillar Caffrey on Off the Ball. 96 minutes on the watch. Leeds 2, Newcastle 2, Leeds down to 10 men. It'll probably be a point for Leeds. Might not be enough though when we see the way the weekend washes out in the Premier League, but at the moment that's just going to go back to full time. After the break, we got a brilliant interview coming up between Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's in studio yesterday, with Shane Hannon. We're back after this.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball. Screen Time with John Fardy.
Michael J. Fox is one of the most adored actors of his generation.